Welcome back, and let's go over the Etsy listing image requirements, which are clear as mud. And you're probably still going to have a lot of questions because I'm sure that I do. I might not know the answers to all of these because, like I said, there's a lot of gray area in here. Okay, so this is the legal policy for the listing image requirements that Etsy has just come out with. And a lot of these are pretty standard. They basically want to show actual product photos. Okay, they don't want stock photos except in the situations outlined below. Okay, and then also if you upload a picture, you confirm you have all necessary rights to those photos and are complying with all the policies. So you can't use someone else's photos. You can't take listing photos. They don't want you to use wholesalers' photos. They don't want you to use stock photos. They want to show the actual product. And I know that's a problem for some people, but that's what the policy says. Okay. The first thing, use original photos. When creating your listings, you must use your own photos, either photos you took yourself or had someone take for you. These photos should showcase the actual finished product that you made, designed, handpicked, or sourced. By accurately portraying the condition, quality, and quantity of your items, you help build trust with buyers. Okay, that's irrelevant. Okay. These photos should showcase the actual finished product that you made, designed, handpicked, or sourced. You need to take your own photos. Okay, now there are exceptions, which let's go into those next, but Etsy prefers when you take your own photos in all cases, and they require that you have original photos that you take yourself or have someone take for you in most cases. Let's look at the exceptions because this is where it gets fun. In certain situations, using original photos of the exact item may not be possible. You can use stock photos in some limited circumstances where you are offering either personalized, customized items or an item made with a production partner as discussed below. Okay, so if you're using POD, if you are personalizing and customizing things, which would be in the sourced category. And the example that we were talking with was neon signs. Someone calls you and says, I'd like to place an order for a sign. And you say, okay. And then you call the sign company and say they want their name on it. That's when you don't have a photo of the final product. And that's the exception for that. Okay. Print on demand is tricky and they prefer that you have a photo of the original item, but they allow you to use mock-ups sometimes. Okay. Let's go through this. Okay, photos of personalized or customized items. For photos of personalized or customized items, custom drawings, if someone calls and says, I want a portrait of my dog, you can't show them a picture of it until you're done, right? Monogrammed accessories or t-shirts featuring a buyer's custom text, and that would be the same as the neon sign. Your first image must feature a finished customized item similar to what buyers will receive, okay? So you need to have a photo of the finished item that's similar to what the customers would receive, but obviously without their personalization. Okay, you cannot use your text here. You can't use placeholder text. You have to have an actual finished customized item with a monogram or a name or whatever it is. Okay, this helps buyers visualize what their custom-made item will look like when completed. Okay, it is prohibited to use a photo of the blank product or a mock-up with a placeholder text as the main image. What this says to me is that you have to have a picture of the final product. You have to have a picture of the finished customized item similar to what buyers will receive, meaning without their personalization on it, but it has to be a photo of the finished product. This is for personalized items. Okay, this isn't print on demand where they're buying just a design that you did. This is a personalized item. So if you sell tumblers with people's names engraved on them and you have someone else do the engraving, it sounds to me, reading this, that you need to buy one so that you can take a picture of it to show people what it will look like, not with their personalization on it, but with someone's. You can't use mock-ups. You can't use a photo of the blank product. And you can't use placeholder text as the main image. Okay, the first photo of the listing has to be the actual item of a photo that you took of the actual item. This means you're going to have to order samples. Computer-generated mockups may be used in additional listing images, so that's not the first image, to showcase customization options. So you can use mockups in additional image to show options, okay? Just make sure your first image is the real deal. That means that you cannot use mock-up photos for personalized items in the first listing image. You have to have a photo of the real thing. And this is how I'm reading this. And I think that's pretty clear. I don't think that there's a lot of question about how I'm reading this. If you would like to use a buyer's review photo as your listing image, you need permission from that buyer. Okay. Now, it is possible to use, buyers' photos, but you do need to contact them because they are the copyright owner of that photo. Even though they've published it in public, you still need to contact them. And I've done that before. Most buyers are very happy to let you use their picture. If they've posted a picture, then they like the product. So if that's the situation and you have photos of a finished product because someone has posted it, contact them and say, is it all right if I use your photo in my listing? And if they say yes, then you don't need to go buy a sample because now you have a picture of the finished product. Okay. But this says to me that photos of personalized or customized item, the first one has to be an actual finished product. It cannot be a mock-up. That's how I'm reading that. Okay. Now, photos of items made with production partners, this gets a little spicy. Okay, when working with production partners, the requirement for listing photos vary depending on the item. Okay, if you design a unique item such as a piece of furniture, clothing, or a book, and a production partner manufactures it for you, use a real photo of the physical end product. All right, that shouldn't be too difficult. If you have someone who is making clothing for you, that you design the clothing, you send it to a factory, they're making it, they're sending them back to you, just take a picture of the actual thing. Okay. You can't do it the sketch. You can't do the design of it that you sent to them. You have to do the actual physical product. You can't do like, basically if you're sending something out to a manufacturer, you should be getting samples. So take a picture of the sample that you receive that's the same as what the customer is going to get, and you're fine. If you create an original design such as artwork or a pattern that a production partner prints onto a base item like a t-shirt or mug, you may use a stock photo mock-up to illustrate the end product buyers will receive. Okay, that's pretty clear to me that if you create a design and you send it to Printful or Printify or wherever, and they're creating the mugs or the t-shirts or whatever by printing it onto a base product. They're taking your design, they're putting it onto a base product, they're sending it to the customer. You can use mock-ups. The thing about the mock-ups is that before this, and I'm not sure, I haven't dug deep into this, but they said that the mock-ups that you had to use had to be the ones that came from the company that was making the product, because they figured that that would be the closest to the actual finished product, as opposed to just a random mock-up that you bought from someone and put your design on that, because that might not actually represent the product that the customer is going to get. So I would stick with the mock-ups that the company provides for you. And it's okay to do that for POD if you are designing a design that is not personalized, it's just being printed on something and sent to the customer. Okay. But if it's personalized, buyer personalized items must follow the guidelines in the personalized or customized section above, which means you need an actual physical product to take the picture. This means that you're going to have to get some samples. If every single thing that you sell in your shop is personalized or customizable, you're going to have to get some samples, unless you can get the pictures from the customers in their reviews. So that would be the first place I look. And then they say you're not supposed to contact customers. Well, I would still ask. I would ask customers if you can use their review pictures, if it's that big a deal, but you can't spam people. So just be aware of that. You can't use the Etsy Convo system to message customers outside of the transaction. So it gets very tricky. But you need permission from the buyer to use their review photos, and you need a picture of the actual thing if you're personalizing or customizing. If you're not personalizing or customizing, you can use mock-ups. And the last thing that I heard is that you had to use the mock-ups that came from the company that is making the product. Okay. So I would stick with that just to be on the safe side. It is going to show the customer the most accurate representation of what they're going to get. And for everything else, you have to use original photos. Okay. Don't use pictures that your wholesalers send you. Take a picture of the fabric, take a picture of the supplies. If you have them in hand, then you know what they look like and you can take a picture of that. You don't have to take a picture of every single one. If you have fabric and you sell it by the yard, you don't have to cut a yard of fabric and take a picture of 1 yard of fabric and then take a picture of the second yard that you cut. Just take a picture of the fabric so people know what it looks like, and then that kind of thing. If you sell beads and they all look exactly the same, just take a picture of a group that represents what the customer will get and have that be your listing photo. But you cannot use mock-ups. You can't use stock photos. And it's honestly, it's better not to use stock photos these days because Etsy does scan other websites to see if there are matching photos. And the assumption is that if there's a matching photo, then you are violating the reselling policy and it's not handmade or whatever, and they'll take your listings down. So it's good to have your own photos. Although, you know, how different can a bunch of bead photos be? I don't know. But that's the photo policy. I'm not sure that there's a lot that's new in that. And it seemed pretty clear to me. So if people are confused about that, post your questions. Because as I'm reading that through and thinking about it, it's not that confusing. I think the problem is coming in where people are like, but I don't want to get samples. Well, guess what? Too bad. Okay, that's if that's the problem, the policy is clear and you're going to have to get samples. Sorry. All right. For the next video, let's talk about the AI policy, because that's another interesting one, and you need to be really careful with this. If you do anything with AI images, I would advise you to watch the next video. Give this one a thumbs up and watch the next one, or watch the one right after that, which is going to be another piece of this, and I will talk to you in a bit.